This comes at a really important time. As you all know, the unconventional energy revolution in the United States over the last several years has brought about a new era of energy abundance for this country. Crude oil production has increased significantly from 5 million barrels per day in 2008 to over 9 million, excuse me, I wanted to say billion, but it's really million per day. In 2013, the United States surpassed Saudi Arabia to become the largest producer of liquid fuels in the world.
It should come as no surprise to any of you this morning that I certainly agree with the conclusions. It is time, it is well time that we lift the ban on crude oil exports.
Given the significance of the export of U.S. energy supplies, and crude in particular, to Asia as a region of burgeoning economic growth and energy demand, we've organized this panel to not only discuss the foreign policy and national security considerations of exporting crude oil, but the implications for Asia in particular and on U.S. and Asian relations, strategic relations.
But look how things have changed. If you look at from the history of the oil markets, in the very first day of Colonel Drake in 1859 until now, it's the Americans, American companies and workers, geologists, entrepreneurs, financiers have just wrought one miracle after the other in terms of bringing new supply. That has challenges in terms of price stability we can talk about. And the last few years is no different. So our oil supply has gone, production has gone from 5 million barrels a day to 9 million barrels a day in the last several years, up 70%. Our demand has been soft, and so our imports have collapsed from the 60% range down to the mid 20% range. An astounding turnaround, again, nobody saw.
It's had a direct impact on reinvigorating U.S. industry and a lot of what we've seen over the past several years of the reemergence of the U.S. as an industrial power, investments in industry, in manufacturing, I think is tied to this domestic production of oil.
TPP status, its size, are relevant to our ability to export energy. We could have in the case that we have a long-term regime, I'm not advocating this, I'm just saying, where we can more freely export to our free trade partners than we can to everyone else, then participation in TPP for Japan and Korea especially becomes exceptionally important. So the two are related. If TPP fails, and we desperately need an economic component to the outreach to Asia, as David just said, energy is the obvious one, and then we need even more than just lifting the crude export ban. We need a plan of how we're going to do this if TPP were to stumble.
On the China-Russia relationship, from the China perspective, Russia is an important supplier of oil, number 3 last year behind Saudi Arabia and Angola. And Russia is poised to become a major supplier of natural gas to China once the Power of Siberia pipeline, the agreement for which was finalized a year ago, once that goes into operation, circa 2020, depending on a number of factors. That said, right now China has the upper hand in the bilateral energy relationship, due, I think, first and foremost to the lower oil price environment, but also U.S. and EU sanctions and Russia's increasing international isolation.